Hi, my name is Tori Shendel Cox. I'm the Virginia G. Schrader Curator of Art at the Evansville Museum, and today we have Summer, and thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to pass it off to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me virtually. I mean, this is the best we can do under circumstances for sure, but I figured it's better to produce some content for people while they're in this situation rather than kind of being stagnant and waiting. It gives them something to occupy their time and not think about what's all that's going on in the world right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Summer El-Khodary. So I'm actually graduating from the University of Evansville in May with my bachelor's in science and public health with a nutrition emphasis. And I'm applying to physician assistant school near the end of the month as well. So it's a little bit of a crazy time for me. And then everything moving online, I'm kind of glued to my computer screen right now, as most of us are. And so I've also founded a nonprofit organization. And so it's called Cultural Communications. And so I always tell it's kind of a long story of how it started because it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do originally. And so if some of you are familiarized at the University of Evansville last spring, they hosted their Community Change Maker Challenge. And that was the first annual year for it. And so I kind of heard about it and was interested about it. I was really interested in the service oriented aspect in it. And I always was one of those people that wanted to make some type of change. And so I originally entered with this idea called Culture Fest, which I did with a partner of mine. And it was the whole point was to kind of unite all the cultures within the community. So we really saw that a lot of the current festivals that were offered were very segmented, where a lot of them were just representing one culture. And so we decided to kind of unite them. And so that was kind of our idea. Short story. We didn't end up getting the funding we needed just because I think I was going a little over my head at the time. And so the anticipated cost that we calculated for it was very large, and that's not something that they could offer like all the amount of money for. And really what I wanted to do was one portion of the thing, which was discussion panel series. And so those discussion panel series really took away the superficiality of culture and really went into more of the deeper issues that a lot of those people deal with. And so that's kind of what we ended up with. And I called it Cultural Communications at the time, which was a project that I was just working on. And that kind of started over last summer. And we hosted our first talk in December. And I kind of ran into some issues regarding people taking what I'm doing seriously and legitimizing it. And so I felt like if I had the nonprofit status, that would help a lot in people legitimizing what I was actually doing. And I've always had a dream of starting a nonprofit organization. I just didn't think it would necessarily happen this early, but kind of life throws you some curveballs and you kind of just have to take them and roll with the punches. So I figured it'd be just better to kind of start off that way, get the legitimization from being a nonprofit organization. And also it just helps you gain connections for grant writing if I ever wanted to get any types of funds from organizations or people or connect with others as well. It just added a whole nother factor that I think as an individual being this young that people sometimes don't take me seriously. So
Mm-hmm.
so kind of that's what we do. And so really what it does is amplify the voices of marginalized communities. And so really I just had being a minority group, being a woman, being Muslim, being Arab, I've had my fair share of difficulties, and I've never had a platform to express that in a neutral space. And I felt like I've never had the opportunity for people to approach me with questions, because a lot of people feel a little bit insecure to ask those questions, feel like they're kind of pressing onto your space. And so I figured it might be easier to provide a platform. And so we've had 2 discussion panel series so far. We had one at Innovation Point in downtown Evansville in December. And so our topic of discussion then was just living in America. So we had first generation immigrants, second generation immigrants, and we had international students just talking about their experiences living in Evansville, living in America, because a lot of them have lived in multiple different places. And then for our February one, we really kind of had young people be the vocal point of it. And so we had high school age and college age individuals, and they talked about their experiences living in Evansville, and we hosted that at the University of Evansville, and we actually saw good momentum, considering like the one in December. I anticipated lower attendance just because it was near the holiday time. And so it was around 30 to 40 people. And then in February, we had around 60 to 70 people. And so I really was intrigued by like how much that actually increased. And, it's a little bit of learning from my standpoint. Like there's just some things that I didn't anticipate, or is more work than I thought. I thought it'd be easy just to gather a group of people and have a conversation. But, just getting connections to different people. I want to make sure that I had, representation from everywhere. I didn't want people that all looked like me being up there, because that wouldn't be representative. So I try to do the best I could to have representation from multiple areas. So I always sent somebody from African descent, somebody that was Arab, somebody that was, South Asian, somebody that was Asian, European, like Hispanic. And so I wanted to make sure we had that representation everywhere. And so I think people responded to that well, because they saw that I was making that effort to provide that representation, rather than having a lot of people that look like me up there, because it'd be easy to find. I would know a lot of people that look like me, but I felt I needed to take that initiative and make sure. And I'm one of those people that like to provide like an encompassing experience. So a lot of local businesses helped out with food, and I was like really surprised by that, because, well, I know our community is very giving, but I would just like call them on the phone and kind of like ramble on about what I was saying. And I just was so like, I was like, how do they even believe anything that I'm saying? I'm not providing them any proof, and that they believe me. And I think that really shows like what type of community we have here, and how kind-hearted, and how they'll take the word of a person, even if they don't see like exactly what you're doing. Like I could have just been saying that and grabbing that food and like eating it all at home or something. So I found that like I was just like so amazed by that. People were like, how did they just like give you that food? And I was like, legit, I do not know, but like I am so very grateful that they did. And so I really try to provide like a good experience for these people. And I knew like the first time around, like I was like overwhelmed, because a lot of people felt more comfortable submitting paper questions. So we had an option of paper questions or people to ask questions out loud, and everybody did paper questions. And so when I was doing the paper questions, I was so overwhelmed because there were so many that I never asked the audience for their, like maybe audience members who would also have something to contribute, or they would have additional questions. But I was just so in those papers. But I kind of really wanted to focus on the discussion point, like really, because our whole point was discussion. And so on the second talk, we really tried to increase that. So we used like another platform called Slido. And so really that is like an online question. So basically you can submit questions online, and that encourages other people to think of questions, because you can see other submitted questions as well. And so that really helped. And then I also asked for audience engagement with questions or thoughts. And once I started to provide some of my viewpoints, because I acted as the moderator during the time, I felt like I really got that engagement. And so I think once I've established like that precedent, that this is something that's always going to be established each time, I think people are going to be more willing to share kind of their viewpoints.
Wow. And see, that's just an amazing experience. Yeah, because I could visualize what this looks like, and I just wish I could be physically there to witness it. And out of
Yeah.
curiosity, I know it's hard to plan for the advancement because of what we're going on, but do you know the next time you're going to have a panel discussion?
Yeah, before all this stuff happened, I had meetings scheduled. I hope to have like 3 events in the fall, and I had meetings scheduled with 3 different groups to kind of collaborate. And so I was hoping, if you've heard of the nonprofit organization Young and Established, and so they're a very big nonprofit organization in the community that really does a lot with youth and youth empowerment. And so the guy that's a part of that, Courtney Johnson, who's the founder of it, we were thinking about doing something together. We haven't necessarily sat down and talked, because our plans kind of changed with all of this. But we're hoping to host an event together, and I'm thinking to possibly host it with the youth. And I think that would be really interesting, like high school students, because before my spring break happened, before all this stuff happened, I went and talked to the international club at Bosse High School, and I did a presentation and I did a stimulation with some of the questions that we used, and they really got into it, to be honest, and I was very surprised of how outspoken they were,
Hmm.
and how big the international population there was. And so I've connected with some of the people there as well, and I hope to maybe do something in the fall with them. I think they would be an interesting group to do it with, or other groups in the EVSC. Um, I also talked to somebody at the University of Southern Indiana, from the social work department, and she was thinking about doing a mutual event together as well. And so I think that would be really interesting. I kind of want to do it around the community. We always kind of change locations just to see how it works and to reach different groups of people. And then there's somebody else that DeAndre Wilson, and he has
Yes.
a nonprofit. Yeah, and he has a nonprofit organization as well, which has to deal a lot with cancer and healthcare and all of that. And so I was thinking about hosting some type of talk as well at a hospital once this thing kind of maybe blows over. So I'm hoping that one probably should be the last one at the end of the year. But really to kind of see um, how like healthcare is affected by different racial groups, and how a lot of, especially like African Americans, concerns are often discounted in healthcare. So I think that would be very interesting to discuss, and I think that would be even more interesting because of this virus and coronavirus. And I know a lot of what's going on in other communities is that because of like ventilators and stuff, they're having these ethical questions of whether or not who's the person to have it versus not. And so I think those would be good questions to explore and see healthcare workers who may have been in those situations and their types of reactions. Hopefully in this community we don't get to that point where we have to make those types of decisions, but if we do get to that point, kind of see from somebody in that position like what was going through their head. Was there also cases of like that you had to decide racially between somebody as well? As that something that, because I feel like that would be an ethical question as well. So
Hmm.
those are kind of the things that we were exploring. I'm also hoping to do I'm trying to produce content now for, because I did have something planned in April 9th. There is the Festival of Nations, and I was going to be one of the booths there. And now that obviously is canceled, and I already had an established event as well, so that had to be canceled. So I want to produce some type of content online. We're actually, me and my graphic designer are currently working on something online interview series. I don't want to give too much away, but it's gonna be pretty fun. It's not gonna be all coronavirus related. It's going to give like I feel like a cultural view to it in a way. And so we have our first guest on there is somebody who's an exchange student right now who's kind of stuck in America, can't go home, and so, and her experiences living in a war zone and all of that. And so it kind of gives perspectives of coronavirus and this quarantine and all of that. So I feel like that will definitely be very interesting and something I haven't heard in that perspective just yet.
Correct. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's gonna be very powerful.
Yeah, we're hoping to record sometime this week, and we're working on possibly getting it out there in 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully earlier. Kind of just working on what we can, and trying to get guests from around the world, because we kind of only hear what's happening in America. So I really want to connect with people around the world and hopefully get interviews with them. We'll see how that kind of works, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to produce something like that.
Absolutely. And would you be able to share with our viewers where they could find that content and where this platform is going to take place?
Yeah, currently we haven't established where it's going to be just yet. We're trying to film it on something, and then that platform will help us distribute it. Hopefully,
Mhm.
if they're able to, it'll be accessible to all people through like Spotify and iTunes and stuff like that. And so I'm hoping that if it gets distributed like that, then we'll be able to find it on there.
Absolutely. Oh, definitely looking forward to it. And please keep us posted.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it too, because we kind of tested the audio quality and did some of the interview questions yesterday with the first guest, and I think it's gonna be really good. So we're just kind of working out some of the kinks and everything. I've never edited audio, and I was like getting frustrated with myself. I was like, let me step back a little bit. So Yeah, it's harder than anticipated. So
That's why I'm grateful for our marketing associate at the museum. She's
yeah.
always editing, and I'm so grateful for her.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, Summer, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers today?
Yeah, and so I think a really big thing to take away just from everything that's like going on in the world is kind of like I just find it very fascinating how we were able to like everybody kind of transition to online and everything is now like digitally. Like you're digitally connecting with somebody, workouts, talking to your friends, cooking classes, any type of social engagement has been moved online. And I think we're very fortunate enough in the United States that that's a thing that we can do.
Yeah.
And I think like based off some of the experiences, I haven't had these experiences, but even like the guests that I talked to and her experiences of being like in quarantine and like in war zones and stuff where electricity's cut off, like they don't even have access to those types of entertainment.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of having that appreciation. Like we can
Mhm.
be sad and about like what we're losing. I mean, all of us are losing something, whether or not going to weddings, graduations. I was supposed to graduate and my graduation's delayed, like all of those types of things. So yeah, it's very sad to think about, I think, but it's very, I think it should be appreciated that just what we have access to, like just being in a home with a roof,
Mhm.
not being struck by that tornado that
Yes.
that happened a couple days ago. And so just having those little things and having the access to entertainment, being able to go outside, and
Mhm.
just don't be near people. But like I think those little things are something to keep in mind, and just to know that those people that they're looking forward to are still trying to produce some type of content or do something for you digitally, so it's not something you necessarily have to miss out on.
Mhm.
And those events that you were looking forward to might be made up a little bit later, so just to keep people's spirits a little bit higher.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So it's always a pleasure getting to speak with you. I definitely
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time. And please
Yeah.
don't be a stranger and let us know if there's any way we can help promote your content. So
Yeah, of course. And I appreciate you guys having me on as well, and with the woman series and everything. And I look forward to what you guys are going to be producing online as well.
I appreciate it. And for those of you who don't know, the Women Speaker Series is a series that the Evansville Museum is hosting. And what that is every month we're going to have a monumental woman speak about her experiences. And Summer was supposed to have a panel with us in May, and we're hoping that it can still happen. But at this point, it's just too early to tell. But nonetheless, you will have a platform. You will have a place in our museum to talk, and we're always here for you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So this is a Evansville Museum recording, and Summer, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.